On today's show, what is a bigger concern for the Phoenix Suns, the point guard spot or the power forward position? And is there a way to fix both at one time? Hint, there is, and I'll tell you about it next.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. My name is Benjamin, host of the Ben Garcia Show mornings on YouTube, as well as a credentialed Suns media member over the past few seasons. Thanks for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this beautiful Wednesday. Don't forget, Locked On Phoenix Suns is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button to do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer and get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. You know, it feels like legitimately we are living the same Suns off season with few tweaks over the last couple of years. The Suns have had some of the same few issues over the last couple of seasons, but one sticks out more than all. I coined this phrase, the Steve Nash Syndrome. And over the past couple of weeks, Suns fans have talked about what the biggest point of concern is for the Phoenix Suns. And continuously, it comes out to be the point guard position. And I continuously say that's not the point that the Suns should be fixing. There's a much bigger issue for the Phoenix Suns, and it's the power forward position. I get that the point guard position makes you feel better. And I coined this phrase, the Steve Nash Syndrome, because the Phoenix Suns are the most famous organization in all of sports in Arizona. It's got the biggest fan base. Most Phoenix Suns fans, like myself, grew up in the Kevin Johnson, Jason Kidd, or in my time, the Steve Nash 7-second or less Suns. The Suns have never really had their clear, or I guess I should say the Suns haven't not really had their clear point guard of the future and the here and now. We're in kind of uncharted territories. And if we were back in 2006 or in 1996, or hell, really anything before that, I would totally understand this issue, that the point guard spot needs to be figured out. It's something Suns fans should be worried about. It's how they're going to orchestrate their offense. And I'm just here to tell you, the point guard position sure is an area of need for the Suns, but it's nowhere near, at least in my belief, their biggest concern. The power forward position is a much more bigger concern. You want to run Ryan Dunn out there at the 4 spot? No one is a bigger fan of Ryan Dunn. I've coined myself the president of a Ryan Dunn fan club. I think the dude is a future star in the making, or at least a very, very good 3-and-D defender or 3-and-D player in the NBA for years to come. But behind him, it's a lot of unproven rookies. Nigel Hayes coming from overseas, or Nigel Hayes Davis coming from overseas, and you're just kind of crossing your fingers. Do I have to take us back to the past couple of seasons where we've continued to bleep and moan about the point guard position? Remember last year, or I guess I should say, let's go back even further, 2 years ago. We had Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. You were going to start the big three era with those few guys. And the biggest point of emphasis, it felt like through social media and the talking heads on ESPN and Fox Sports 1 was, well, who's going to distribute the basketball? And it was like, well, Bradley Beal or Devin Booker can do that. They're all NBA caliber players, at least at the time. And then it didn't work out. But Brendan, myself on Fox Sports 910 in Phoenix on the radio waves, kept telling people the biggest issue for the Suns was they're small, they're old, they're not great defensively. They lacked small forwards and power forwards. They had no 3-and-D guys. You gave up Crowder, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges for Kevin Durant, which, to be fair, I would still do, maybe not give up the same amount of draft capital for it, but he's a top 10 basketball player of all time. You put him on your team. But people told us, no, that's not the biggest issue for the Suns. The biggest issue for the Suns isn't the center position running out Yusuf Nurkic. It's not the lack of wing depth, the lack of shooters around Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal. No. It's bringing in a sub-6-foot point guard to make you feel better about running the offense. And the Suns did that. They went and got Tyus Jones. It's so crazy to me that when I see people on social media or Suns fans getting up in arms about this, is, the Suns need a point guard. What are they going to do? Let's not act like myself, the Suns front office, and the majority of the Suns fan base wasn't over their skis to have Tyus Jones to be a part of the Phoenix Suns. Well, heck, we'll just run Tyus Jones at the point, Bradley Beal at the 2, Devin Booker at the 3, KD at the 4, and we'll run Yusuf Nurkic at the 5. He's been a so-so defender, but he can grab boards. He can pass the ball. He did work well in the Frank Vogel offense. That is undisputable. Or I guess I should say it's indisputable. In the Coach Budenholzer offense, it didn't. And then what happened when you had a true point guard out there with the big 3? The Suns did what they told you what they were going to do. They were going to give the ball to their star players. They were going to let Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant cook. They weren't worried about a sub-6-foot point guard in Tyus Jones who can't defend. They weren't worried about giving him the reins and saying, here, run the offense. And when they did, it wasn't any different. They were 10 games under 500 last year. Tyus Jones got sent to the bench. In a perfect world, yes, would I love Steve Nash running the Phoenix Suns at the point guard position? Sure. But guys, look around the NBA. SGA is the point guard for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They just won the title. He's not your traditional point guard. He's like a point forward almost, how big he is. But it's about positionless basketball, being versatile. It's not about getting a point guard out there to make you feel better about distributing the basketball to Devin Booker or Jalen Green. You know what I would rather? Run Jalen Green and Devin Booker out there. The 2 best players on your team handling the basketball. The 2 guys who are going to be able to create the most shots, not just for themselves, but for others. I don't want to just go sign Monte Morris or Tyus Jones to make myself feel better. The second unit, I get it. You need someone to kind of orchestrate the offense a little bit. That's why Colin Gillespie's there. And guess what? If you're going to stagger Devin Booker and Jalen Green, you're still going to have them handling the basketball. I need this community, the Suns fans community, the Locked On Suns loyal listeners. We got to stop with this idea. Well, we just need a traditional point guard. Okay, who? You wanted 40-year-old Chris Paul? Myself, former host of Locked On Phoenix Suns, Brendan Clean, he mentioned it as well. Sure, would Chris Paul be cool? Fine. He's 40 years old. The breed of the traditional pass-first, gritty defender point guard is a thing of the past. We are in positionless basketball. The All-NBA is positionless now. SGA is your point guard for the Oklahoma City Thunder. John Morant's your point guard for the Memphis Grizzlies. Luka Doncic runs a lot of point. None of those guys are pass first, distribute, let the offense come to them guys. No, you know what they do? They create the offense. They are the offense. It's score first. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, both play point guard at times. We can't get so fixated on this idea that the Suns need someone out there to orchestrate their offense. Let's say they did. Let's say they brought Chris Paul into the fold. You're going to bench Jalen Green? He's making $33 million a year. He's your second best creator offensively for the Phoenix Suns. It doesn't make any sense. I haven't heard one tangible argument yet for bring another point guard into the fold. You know what the Suns did? They got their traditional-ish point guard in Colin Gillespie, brings up the ball, will distribute, will hit an occasional three, and will be a gritty, pesky defender and play 15 minutes a night. And behind him, Jordan Goodwin, who will do a little bit of the ball handling duties, even less there than of Colin Gillespie, and will barely play. But you know what this offense is going to feature? Devin Booker creating for other players. And there is no one on the market right now, not Malcolm Brogdon, no one, who is a better point guard than Devin Booker. Devin Booker, we've seen the statistics. He's not the greatest point guard. He's not a top 5, top 10 point guard, but he's a top 10 shot creator. And so I get the idea of, well, we don't want to just thrust Book into a position he's not perfect at. Well, him at that position is still better than other traditional point guards than in Devin Booker's spot. So this idea that we're talking about, moving guys elsewhere or bringing a point guard into the fold, we have to stop with this idea. Last year, I told you, Brendan told you, myself, if you listen to Fox Sports 910 on the Phoenix radio airwaves, the point guard position has never been a spot of emphasis over the last couple of seasons for the Suns. And it's not for a lot of teams. It's positionless basketball. It's be versatile. However, I do think there is a way where you can fix both needs, the power forward spot as well as the point guard spot. And it's with one Josh Giddey. Let's talk about that next. First, today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. For myself at times, it can be a couple of days before I look at one of our credit cards or another debit card or a checking account or my investments here or wherever it may be. With Monarch Money, had I been able to combine all of that kind of into one and be able to manage my finances and see where I'm spending a little bit more here or a little too much there or not enough here, and see the money that I could be saving to allocate that to other things, maybe spruce up the background, which you guys keep on telling me is incredibly bare. Well, if I had Monarch Money, if I was using it back then, I'd be able to save a little bit, showing me where I could be cutting ends and putting a little bit of money here when it should have been there. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, keeping the show rolling. I got a little carried away there with the point guard talk. Got to be honest with you guys. It's just something that has driven me insane over the past couple of seasons because it's just not a point of emphasis for the Phoenix Suns. However, there is a player out there that I do believe can solve both issues for the Phoenix Suns. I'm not saying Josh Giddey is your traditional power forward. But neither is Jonathan Kuminga. And what has been the model of the Phoenix Suns this offseason? We want to get bigger. We want to get younger. We want to play faster. And we want to be more versatile. Hence why they didn't bring a traditional point guard into the fold. I don't really understand outside of the values for both players. I'm not sure which guy is going to command not just more money, but also more assets in return. But it's kind of null and void when you think about it, because it's not like the Bulls have been known to make great deals. If I'm not mistaken, they traded DeMar DeRozan and Josh Giddey and Alex Caruso and didn't get one first-round pick back. Don't quote me on that, but I'm fairly certain that has been the case for the Chicago Bulls. And so if you see a vulnerable front office in the Chicago Bulls, I don't understand why, if you're the Suns, you're so into Jonathan Kuminga, but not Josh Giddey. Jonathan Kuminga, as mentioned before yesterday with my guy John Voida, who will join me Mondays on Locked On Phoenix Suns to break down some of the biggest news going on with the Suns throughout the week. On Mondays, he'll do that with me. But we talked about yesterday. When you look at Jonathan Kuminga, you understand a lot of the reasons why Suns fans would get excited about him, why the front office would get excited about him. He's young. He's athletic. Suns had issues last year getting to the cup. He can pepper the rim, get there at will, but he's a bad shooter, and he doesn't defend very well. And he's more of a 6'7", 6'6" guy and isn't a true power forward. And so when you start Jonathan Kuminga, you're talking about a lineup of Jalen Green, Devin Booker, Brooks, Kuminga, and one tall guy in Mark Williams. I'm not saying you would start Josh Giddey at the 4 spot, but it does give you a little bit more of a more versatile player in Josh Giddey, who can kind of play the 1 through 3 and probably a little bit of the 4 as well. But if we're talking about spending the last of the Suns' assets, Oso Ighodaro and Grayson Allen and some second-round picks to bring a guy in, Jonathan Kuminga or Josh Giddey, I look at the Suns' issues: ball handling, creating, getting other guys open, can hit the occasional 3, a bigger body. Josh Giddey marks all of those check marks or marks all of those boxes off. While Kuminga is not a great defender, neither is Josh Giddey, but he's still smaller than Josh Giddey. He's not as good of a playmaker. Yes, he gets to the rim better than Giddey, but he shoots the ball worse. And he's kind of an inefficient scorer overall. And the Golden State Warriors, headlined by one of the greatest coaches of all time in Steve Kerr, has continued to say, I can't trust you in big spots. The Josh Giddey trajectory arc has been a little weird. He had some of the weird stuff over at Oklahoma City. That stuff got disputed, or as a whole got pushed to the side. And so you kind of understand why maybe that last year in Oklahoma City, maybe his head too much, uncertain about the future, and was someone who didn't have a great year. But he goes over to the Chicago Bulls. He plays 30 minutes a night, 46% from the field, 37% from 3, average 14 points a night, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. In comparison to Jonathan Kuminga, both guys who are 22 years old, literally days apart. Jonathan Kuminga, had to grab his thing up right here. But Jonathan Kuminga shot 45% from the field, 1% less than Josh Giddey. Shot 30% from 3, almost 7 percentage points less than Josh Giddey. Shot the ball from free throw worse than Josh Giddey. Less assists, less rebounds, and played less minutes. And when you look at some of the issues the Suns have, I would feel really comfortable about Josh Giddey bringing the ball up the court and finding a way to distribute to Devin Booker and Jalen Green, as well as playing off ball. He's not a sniper shooting the 3-point shot by any means, but you can't leave him open at 37%, from Josh Giddey from the floor, almost 38%. He's a good three-point shooter. So when I look at the Suns' issues, the point guard spot and being able to play bigger, potentially maybe even some small ball four, I just don't see that sort of versatility where you could stick Ryan Dunn and Jonathan Kuminga on the court together because neither guy can shoot. Whereas if you throw Dylan Brooks on the court, Josh Giddey, Jalen Green, Devin Booker, you have a healthy diet of guys who can hit the three-point ball, but also guys that can run the pick and roll, hit a mid-range jumper, and Jalen Green who can get to the basket. It's a little bit more diversified. And I've just kind of been a little like this mental block of why the Suns are so much more interested in Jonathan Kuminga, who is by far the more explosive and better athlete, but doesn't fit anything else the Phoenix Suns have been trying to build over this offseason. So if you really want to fix the point guard position and you really want to do it with a versatile player who's big, can play a little bit more than just the one spot, can probably go all the way up to some small ball four, as well as some normal 1 through 3, a guy that can distribute the ball, find players like Devin Booker and Jalen Green open, I think it's pretty clear Josh Giddey is your guy. And I understand there'll be people in the comment section, oh, great, ridiculous trades that will never happen. Alex Caruso got traded for no first-round picks. DeMar DeRozan got traded for nothing. It's not like the Bulls are an A-plus tier of an organization just masterminding, mega mining, GMing, and ripping off every other team. So if you're the Suns, make the phone call. I feel a lot better about ripping off the Bulls than I do a championship pedigree team in the Golden State Warriors. Listen, neither guy might not happen. In fact, it's trending towards neither guy will happen. But if you're just debating the two, it's no contest. Kuminga doesn't make as much sense as Josh Giddey for all the reasons. Suns want to get younger, more versatile, push the pace, have more guys on the floor that can handle the ball, hit a three-point shot occasionally. Outside of the explosiveness, I just don't see it with Jonathan Kuminga. Now, there's a price tag for everything. If you get Kuminga for $25 million a year and it costs you Grayson and Oso, I'd do it. Because the risk is just worth the reward at that point. But if the same deal is on the table for Josh Giddey and just a couple of million more, I don't see why you don't do that. In fact, I think you'd be crazy not to make the call. There was some other news going on from the Phoenix Suns over the weekend, and that was this. Did the Suns blow a golden opportunity to reset their franchise for years to come, courtesy of the New Orleans Pelicans? Well, depends who you ask. Let's talk about it next. Closing out the show, stick with me, guys, in a few minutes here. We'll also talk about some future plans as well that I have an idea for Locked On Phoenix Suns, and I want to give you guys about 1 to 2 minutes on what my vision is of the next phase of the show. You guys have been so great about tuning in and reaching out to me, reaching out to Brendan. That transparency, I do want it to be there, and I would love to tell you guys what is next to come, because it's hopefully not just going to be me monologuing for 5 straight days, each and every week for 30 minutes. I know you want a little bit of a healthy diet of myself, and as well, maybe someone to check what can be at times, not often, but could be some wild takes. Let's go here first, though. There was a report over the weekend that the Phoenix Suns had an offer on the table that eventually went to, I forgot who it was, that eventually drafted Derek Queen, but I can look that up really quickly. But overall, the Suns had it was to the Atlanta Hawks. So the original trade that sent the 2026 unprotected first round pick, or, you know, the deal the Hawks eventually, or the deal the Hawks and the Pelicans eventually get that got Derek Queen, the Suns were also in the mix there. According to John Hollinger, the Suns turned down an unprotected 2026 first and the 23rd overall pick for the 10th pick. Discussions over whether Phoenix fumbled the bag by not taking the New Orleans offer will only heighten if Malawach can't give the Suns a quality big. When I first read this, that the Suns could have had a New Orleans Pelicans unprotected 2026 first round pick, which would be next year. Yeah, next year's first round pick, if I'm not mistaken. The Suns would have gotten the 23rd overall pick and the 2026 first round pick unprotected. Here's why it doesn't matter. If the Suns didn't trust their scouting, they make this deal. They give themselves another year. They try to find out what they want to do with Jordan Knott. They maybe hire more scouts. Remember, they were in a coaching consistent carousel where they've got a new not front office, but they got a new coaching carousel in. They get those guys off. Oh, Frank Vogel, it's your turn. Mike Budenholzer, it's your guys and your turn. Let's figure out what you can do. Maybe the Suns, if the Suns didn't trust their scouting department, then yeah, maybe they make this deal. But from the Suns' own mouth, if they took this deal, it would be insanity. Brian Gregory, in that 11-minute Suns propped up propaganda draft night video that Brendan and I talked about last week, really good episode, you should go check that out. He mentioned that Kaman Malawach was 5th on their board. So if you're just doing the math, the Suns felt like, yes, they had the 10th overall pick in the draft, but they kind of felt like they had a top 5 pick in the draft because the guy that they had 5th on their board fell to them at 10. So, yeah, you could play the lottery ping pong balls. No one thinks the Pelicans are going to be great next year. And maybe their pick does end up being a top 10, top 5 pick. But does it matter if your pick feels like the 5th overall pick because you felt like you stole Kaman Malawach at the 10th overall pick? Ultimately, at the end of the day, if Kaman Malawach is a serviceable starter or an all-star big, or what I believe he can be, a more lateral Rudy Gobert, more athletic Rudy Gobert, same amount of defensive prowess as that kind of guy in Rudy, what does it matter? What is an extra first-round pick going to do? If the Suns love their guy and he's 18 years old and they feel like he has all the potential in the world, what does it matter? Hell, it was 3 unprotected first-round picks. If you love your guy, if you were hoping he would fall to you, you have to take that deal. Not to mention, it feels like the Suns' hands also were tied a little bit in that. We all saw the video of Rich Paul calling Matt Ishbia basically saying, I'm going to try to make Kaman Malawach fall to you. In a league that's all about relations, Kaman Malawach falls to him. Let's say they take the deal, don't take Kaman Malawach, and Rich Paul did all this work for nothing. I don't think it's everything, but I do think it's something. You want to keep in good standing with someone like Rich Paul in Clutch Sports, who represents, I don't know, almost all of the best players in the NBA. So I do think that also plays a role in it. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if Kaman Malawach is awesome, who cares? Who cares? And there's no guarantee. You know what the guarantee was on draft night? You are getting what you believe to be the 5th best player on the board at the 10th overall spot. That's what you believe. That's what your scouting says. 2026 unprotected first round pick. You know what that says? What if Zion finally figures it out? Then it really doesn't matter. But also, what if the Pelicans are terrible? Could be the case too. Do you really want to spin the chamber, play Russian roulette with a organization who's kind of at that point teetering on the brink of competency? I don't want to do that. The Suns don't get to take big swings like that right now. You know what they get to do? Take the surefire guy that they believe on their board is going to be awesome. And that's exactly what they did. I appreciate them entertaining offers. Always keep the door open. You don't want to slam the door shut on anything. But that was the better way to go. Really quickly, guys. as we mentioned last week, couldn't be more thankful that, Brendan was on the show. It's my first time doing the show solo since he's been gone. And I just want to mention to you guys, I will be the solo host of the show. However, I understand that although I just have amazing and raucous and I'm never wrong takes all the time, he said sarcastically, this show will, in my vision, be a mostly guest-oriented show, meaning I'll host the show, I'll give takes, I'll do what I normally do, but if I had my way, there will be at least 2 times a week where there is a guest on the show balancing it out a bit. I can do the monologuing. I enjoy doing it. I like speaking into the void while my wife thinks I'm going insane, talking to no one. But I understand this show has had some sort of not really a tendency, but just a regularity of having 2 guys there. We're going to have John Voight on Mondays. He'll be here on Mondays. We're going to have Bruce Vilas on Friday, or I hope I'm saying his name right. Bruce Vilas on Friday. And we're going to have that revolving door of guests in. It won't just be me. It'll be Locked On Suns, hosted by Benjamin Garcia, and friends throughout the week. It'll be really great. I'm excited for this next chapter. As much as I loved having Brendan as my right-hand man, I love bickering with the guy when it comes to sports takes and Suns takes. We will continue to have that on here. It just won't be Brendan. Hopefully he comes on sometimes, but it won't always just be, it won't be him, obviously, as much anymore. We got John Voight on Mondays, Bruce Vilas coming up this Friday. I've got Espo lined up next week. We're going to continuously have a revolving door. So with that being the case, let me know of some of your favorite Suns guys that you listen to. I'll get them on the show. I'll explain to them why their Suns takes are wrong and why mine are always right. Again, he said sarcastically. But with that being said, guys, it will not just become the Ben Garcia show, Locked On Suns edition. It will be full on Suns, taking my full attention, as well as bring on some other really smart and savvy Suns guys to also carry some of that load, because we are lucky to have some very talented guys, hence John being one of them. Bruce coming up on Friday. I'll have Espo on probably sometime next week, maybe the week after. But it won't just be me monologuing. I don't think that's the best way to run a show. I think it's good to have that sort of discourse. So with that being said, let me know. Maybe an idea that you guys want to do in the chat. Maybe it gets, or on the show, maybe it gets a bunch of likes. Maybe I consider it. Maybe we end up doing it. As well as let me know some guys in the comment section who you really like, that you'd like me to bring on the show. I would enjoy doing that. But with that being said, guys, appreciate you guys continuously hanging on for the long haul. I really appreciate everything you guys have done for myself, and I know Brendan appreciates what you guys have done for him as well. That will be my only piece on the matter. The Locked On Suns train keeps on chugging along. So thanks for making Locked On Suns a part of your daily routine. Check me out on social media. Check the show out on social media. And for myself, everyone listening, it's been Locked On Phoenix Suns. And we will talk to you guys, or I will talk to you guys Friday.